The chilling last flight of PSA 1771, a tale of revenge and tragedy. The cabin crew rushes into the cockpit, her face pale, eyes wide with terror. "Captain," she shouts, "we have a problem." The urgency in her voice freezes the air. The pilots turn in unison, concern etched into their features. "What's the problem?" the captain asks. Before she can respond, a crack cuts through the cabin, the unmistakable echo of a gunshot. She crumples to the floor. A man emerges from the shadows, cold, unyielding, and armed. His voice is as hollow as his actions. "I'm the problem." Two more gunshots pierce the silence. Both pilots slump, lifeless. What began as just another routine flight above the California countryside spirals into chaos as this in-flight massacre claims the lives of a flight attendant, both pilots, and ultimately, every passenger. This is no accident. This is history, a catastrophic tale of vengeance that aviation professionals still recall with unease. Pacific Southwest Airlines, fondly known as PSA, once ruled the Californian skies. Aviation enthusiasts hailed it as the airline of smiles, a friendly yet reliable service connecting hearts and destinations across Los Angeles, San Francisco, and San Diego. With its fleet of Douglas DC-9s, Maryland 80s, and sleek British BAE 146 jets, PSA symbolized progress and opportunity in the 1980s. However, change loomed on the horizon. In 1987, US Air acquired PSA, aiming to fully merge their operations by 1988. Though the merger promised professional growth for some, it also uprooted countless employees, one of whom was David Augustus Burke. With over 14 years in the aviation industry, David Burke seemed like any other seasoned professional. He had worked his way up from an aircraft cleaner to a ticketing agent stationed in Los Angeles. Yet, beneath the surface lay turbulent waters. Burke's personal and professional life was marred by instability. He was a father of 7 from 4 relationships, struggled with violent tendencies, and carried a lengthy criminal record. Allegations of cocaine smuggling through US air flights shadowed his career, though no charges were ever proven. November 1987 marked the turning point. Caught stealing $69 from Inflight sales, his role at PSA abruptly ended, a dismissal that plunged Burke into financial turmoil. On December 7, 1987, desperate to regain his job, David Burke met his ex-boss, Ray Thompson, the station manager for US Air and PSA in Los Angeles. Thompson, who commuted daily between Los Angeles and San Francisco on PSA flights, listened as Burke appealed for leniency. But when Thompson refused to consider reinstating him, a spark of rage ignited within Burke, a smoldering intent for revenge. Shortly after leaving the office, he made a chilling decision. This flight would be both Thompson's last and his own. Burke purchased a one-way ticket for PSA Flight 1771, scheduled to carry Ray Thompson home to San Francisco. Using his still valid employee ID, Burke bypassed airport security with ease. Concealed in his jacket was a deadly .44 caliber Smith & Wesson Model 29 revolver, borrowed from a friend. At 3:31 p.m., PSA 1771 departed Los Angeles International Airport. Aboard were 38 passengers, including Burke, Thompson, and PSA's chief pilot, Douglas Arthur. At the controls of the quiet BAE 146 jet were Captain Greg Lindemood and First Officer James Nunn, experienced professionals accustomed to this routine route. 22,000 feet above California, the British-built jet cruised effortlessly. Passengers settled in for the short 90-minute flight. Yet Burke's seat was anything but calm. Reaching for an air sickness bag, he scrawled what can only be described as his manifesto of malice. "Hi, Ray. I think it's sort of ironical that we ended up like this. I asked for some leniency for my family, remember? Well, I got none and you'll get none." As he passed Thompson's seat, he casually dropped the bag into his lap. Minutes later, shots rang out. Burke had shot Thompson in cold blood. Panic erupted in the cabin as the pilots alerted air traffic control of gunfire on board. Flight attendant Deborah Neal, trembling but determined, burst into the cockpit. "Captain, we have a problem," she cried. The pilots turned to face her, only for Burke to appear behind her, gun in hand. Without hesitation, he pulled the trigger, silencing Neal instantly. "I'm the problem," Burke declared before executing both Captain Lindemood and First Officer Nunn where they sat. Control of PSA 1771 now lay in Burke's hands. He forced the control column forward, sending the aircraft into a devastating nosedive. At this moment, the airline's chief pilot, Douglas Arthur, made a desperate attempt to intervene, shouting at Burke, "What are you doing?" With chilling calm, Burke aimed his weapon at Arthur and fired. The aisle was now a corridor of finality. None could stop the inevitable. As the plane descended rapidly, the laws of physics exacted their toll. Hurtling past the speed of sound, the BAE 146 spiraled into the earth. Passengers would have felt crushing gravitational forces pinning them to their seats, the overwhelming intensity of their final moments, stretching time itself into unbearable agony. Just 65 seconds after Burke's killing spree began, PSA Flight 1771 shattered into the California hills at 4:16 p.m. The fury of the impact vaporized the 30-ton jet, leaving devastation and unidentifiable remains behind. The aftermath was grim, a sight of carnage and twisted metal. All 43 lives aboard PSA 1771 were lost, marking one of California's worst air accidents. This tragedy not only showcased the vulnerabilities of aviation security, but highlighted the human cost of unchecked rage. To aviation professionals, the story of Flight 1771 is a stark reminder of the responsibilities carried skyward and the critical importance of safety protocols. It tells of a beloved airline, a troubled man blinded by revenge, and 43 souls who never reached their destination. Thank you for joining us in recounting this tragic chapter of aviation history. What are your thoughts on the events of PSA 1771? Share them below, and we'll see you next time on Airline TV.